So the first step in this question is to figure out what n is, and you might be familiar with powers of 2. So if you do 2 squared to the 80, that's 4 to the 80. That doesn't work. If you then make it 16, then you would have that. So that doesn't kind of lead you anywhere. You could do 256, but that would be too large. So you then have to start thinking in terms of odd powers. If you do 2 cubed, and that would be 160 over 3. That doesn't work. So then you think 2 to the 5. And because it's CAT, you're not expecting it to be that easy. So here, 160 over 5. And that's when you recognize 2 to the 5 is 32. And 160 over 5 is also 32. So that means n has to be 32. So this process is a little bit of a trial and error. I mean, this is exactly how I got to it. So expect some difficulty in doing this. Now, obviously, some will be able to do this faster than others, but that's kind of sort of what they're expecting you to do. I don't think it's obvious just looking at it. That's why the numbers are much larger. Once you have n, then we're saying 32 squared plus 2 to the 32. What's the largest value of x for which this is divisible by 2 to the x? So this is an integer. That's really what the question is asking. So I'll rewrite this in powers of 2. 32 is 2 to the 5. And 2 to the 32 remains that way. So this is 2 to the 10 plus 2 to the 32. I can factor out a 2 to the 10. And I'll get 1 plus 2 to the 22. This actually is odd, because that would be even plus 1. So what's the largest power of x that would divide this? Well, it's 10, because this piece would then be divisible by that. So the answer is 10. And so it is a hard question if you're not able to make that breakthrough. I mean, you can't really do much with that. So I think the step number 1 here is, can you do this quickly enough that you can then move on to the easier part? And also making sure that, I think a common trap I've seen is, this is not 2 to the 42. Just make sure you always factor. And anytime you have a plus, there's no general rule for adding terms that are exponent form. Best you can do is factor out and see what happens. So to summarize, the answer is 10.